And we are live. Hey guys, this is Ruben from Dub's podcast Connection Loop. And I have a Kat on the line. In fact, I have Kat Ramirez. So Kat and I just had a cool convo and we were sort of exploring some topics. And there's so many relevant things, I think, in this podcast specific to pivoting and figuring out ways to kind of succeed in our current environment and the environment to come, the new normal, if you will. So Kat, give me your best advice. What's your punchiest stuff on how you can evolve, pivot, and succeed?
Yeah. So it's so interesting because I have been approached now by businesses that are like, hey, Kat, my doors are open and nobody knows I'm open. And so what do I do? And I love this conversation because I'm like, yay, awesome. You're back into the game. And so, my advice to people that are not open, but planning to open is you got to start creating a plan. You have to start thinking about what are you going to do now and warm people up to inviting them to your, location, whether you're brick and mortar or you're a drive-by or whatever the case may be. Now is the time to start creating that plan and have some action points, some a timeline, and what are you going to do with some bullet points of, hey, let's talk about, what are some of the options that I have and what's going to be the best thing for me in order to alert my audience. What do I do? How do I get people to say, hey, I'm here, I'm open?
Isn't this funny where it's kind of a fight or flight response that I think some people are having? One of the things that we noticed for our business is that there was a huge uptick in demand because people were like, we need to send videos. Zoom calls are not always appropriate. We need to just pre-record a video and email it or send it on social. But then we also noticed a little uptick in our churn rate,
Yeah.
and I think.
Yeah.
And people sort of, sent us messages and said, we're just freezing everything. We're not paying for anything. And we're just basically going to put our whole business on ice. And that's like a classic freeze thing. And it was really interesting to kind of see that response from people because, you can use this current time as an opportunity to evolve and to pivot and
Yep.
to figure out what's actually going to play, or you can just put your whole life and business on ice.
Yeah.
And I don't know where that's going to lead you, but you have gone through that process. And what was it like for you? What was the scariest thing for you? What was was there an evening where you were just not sleeping all night and you were just sweating and crying and scared and you were like, what am I going to do here? And if so, like, how did you evolve and how did you solve that problem?
Right. And so I can reflect with every other business out there. And I talk to a lot of business. There's some businesses that lost 100% of their business, 90 to
Yeah,
100%. You
right.
might as well say 100%. And then there's businesses that lost 50% or 75%, And
I keep thinking about wedding photographers.
That was nearly shut down. So,
Yeah.
and I had one of my good friends, I could feel her pain on social media because hers was a wedding, caterer kind of support.
Yeah.
And so, you're going through that pain. And I went through that pain and I lost a lot of clients that had brick and mortars that were they closed their shop and there was no way to drive traffic. So there's a couple lessons here learned. Is an opportunity to have an online store or an online presence. And if they didn't have one, that was an opportunity to create one. And a lot of businesses chose not to. And they said, I'm going to sit here and I'm going to weigh it out. I personally would not have done that. And we didn't do that. We lost a lot of business. And so what do we have to do? We had to reorganize and figure out how can we solve a problem for the current, situation so that we still help businesses grow. And we created a second motto, a hashtag social buzz that was really, really affordable. And we lent that out to the marketplace and that really took off. And so other businesses should have taken this opportunity and they still can, but it's not a time where you say, like you stated, Ruben, let me just sit back and ride the wave because I can predict what's going to happen at the tail end of that. I can totally predict. And, I have a client that's a great success story. She's a veterinarian and she's a little older, but, God love her because she was not going to give in. And she's ready to retire and she's ready to take on the next phase. And this really put a hiccup in her what her plan was. And so she said, hey, Kat, we're going to do virtual appointments, and we're going to do the whatever, a dog trimming and spa. And then they also gave free daycare to essential workers. So she was very aggressive in her plan and her strategy. We helped implement it. We put it out there. In the last 2 months, she's had the best months ever in the history of her business. Yes.
Really?
Yeah. And so it's because, it's being reactionary. It's how do we stay ahead of this? How do we grow? How do we keep planning and evolving? And I'll tell you what, she has now more virtual appointments than she has ever had walk-in business. And so she's like, I want to keep growing that. That's another revenue stream. And do you see what I'm saying? Like, the people that really are thinking ahead and that really are grasping and seeing this as an opportunity instead of seeing it as, oh my God, I'm sunken and my business is down. Those are the people that are surviving. Those are people coming out way ahead of the marketplace, And so, it's having a strategy.
Right, exactly. And I think to a certain extent, a lot of that strategy is can be reused and replicated. I mean, we're all suffering from the same issues right now.
Right.
We used to get into our cars, we used to go places, we used to meet people, and now we're just using digital. And there's a lot of slack that I think some people are getting on how this current situation is actually forcing us to go into this realm, and that this threat and this tragedy really is sort of a necessary evil. And it's a very, very hot topic. And, some kind of celebrity types will post stuff about this, whether it's about, tech or it's mostly about nature, really.
Right.
And our sort of respect for the planet. But I mean, it's a reality, we're all being forced to change.
Oh, yeah.
And here we are, and it's really our choice on what we can do here.
Yeah. And it's really about making some really tough decisions, because I had to make some tough decisions. And so as I was getting notification from clients saying, I've got to pull back, I've got to, tighten my purse strings as tight as I can. I understand, because I had to too. As people were pulling back, I had to tighten my purse strings. And so I had to let people go. I had to cut corners. I had to, kill subscriptions that, had to determine what's a priority for me and what isn't. And so it makes you become very, very efficient, extremely efficient, because you use the resources that you have, and your team, your best people come, forward, and they help out, and they're all hands on deck. And so that's, to me, the reality of it is, how good are you to your people, and how committed are your people to you when you go through this. And now we're growing, we're in a growth spurt. So we are hiring different people, because there's a huge market, a huge resource of really good, talented people that want jobs, And so I think that's the beautiful thing.
Yeah. Yeah. I think some people feel lucky because they can pivot their businesses, but there are other businesses that maybe can't be pivoted.
Mm-hmm.
If you're a wedding photographer, what are you going to do right now? Are you going to do virtual wedding shoots, or are we going to take photos of you in a Zoom call?
No, but that's a good question, because there's still a lot of businesses that need pictures,
Mm-hmm.
like real estate, I mean, we can think of a lot of businesses that do need photography, like good photography. The question is, okay, here's the big question. Am I going to go do that? Because I feel a little high up here. Do you see what I'm saying? Because wedding is expensive. It's a big ticket. Am I going to lower myself to go and do this now? Because
Right.
there are opportunities. I'm telling you, there are opportunities out there. There's money out there. There's business out there. And at some point, you have to get off your high horse. It's just like me. I had to start all over again. I felt like I was in startup mode, and I was hustling. I was working long hours again. And I was like, wow, I'm doing this all over again. And you know what? It's worth every ounce that I stayed up, every ounce that I sweated. It's worth every minute of it, because it's about survival, and it's about, staying ahead of the game. And it's about, like you said, having another revenue stream, having another opportunity now, because here's the reality. The market is, I'm not going to say go back to normal, but the market is moving forward. Moving forward means businesses are going to have to tell people, hey, I'm in business. Come check me out. So here's the other reality is there are some businesses that aren't going to survive. They're going to close their doors. And I hate to say it, but that's going to be the reality and that's going to happen. That's going to be a huge opportunity for people who ever wanted to start a business to start, because it'll be cheap and there'll be resources and they'll have the opportunity and the resources available to them. Because guess what? These buildings want to rent out. The people still want restaurants. It's the opportunities will still be there.
You're so right. It comes down to survival.
Yep.
And I think that a big part of survival is going outside of your comfort zone.
Yep.
And I think for some businesses, I think they've been fortunate because they made choices. In the past, they said, "I'm going to make my business virtual. I'm going to go." Buy a mic. I'm going to go create this. I'm going to do that. I'm going to do what I need to do to survive in an environment where I don't necessarily have to go out there into the world. And unfortunately, whether it's through bad luck or poor choices or some combination, some businesses just simply did not do that. I feel for the restaurants that did not have a delivery service hooked up, that were not using a Grubhub or an Uber or a Postmates or whatever. I feel for those businesses. But I think that the learning lesson here is accountability, and I think that if we don't have that level of accountability, and the reason why I can say this is because I know exactly what it's like to not have accountability and to not have made choices and to made poor choices and then failed as a result of that, and then realized, oh crap, I should have done this, I should have done that, and then went through that evolution and maturation process. It's through that failure, I think, that we gain that maturity and that we gain that. And unfortunately, for a lot of us, we are going through that right now. We do have to find that maturity to say, you know what, I'm going to make the right choices so that the next time this happens, God forbid, that I will survive. So I sense that you've gone, just like all of us, you've gone through your own adversity.
Mm-hmm. Oh yeah.
In your personal life, and that adversity is what made you Kat.
Right. Right. I mean,
and if you did not go through all the crap that you've gone through, I don't know what that is, but whatever you've gone through, if you did not go through that, you would not be smiling right now with me having this conversation. And I wanted to open up the mic a little bit for you to talk about what you've gone through and then how you evolved and matured and learned from that.
Yeah. I mean, like I have gone through adversity since day one. So, I come from a very poor family. I'm like third generation Hispanic. None of them, when I grew up, nobody was ever encouraged to go to college. That wasn't the game plan. The game plan was for me to get married and get the hell out of the house, And, as a child, I always wanted to go to college. I don't know why, but I did. And I went to college and then I went to the military. And, I had a different path. I had a different road I wanted to go down. And I fed into the corporate America. I drank that Kool-Aid. I was like, give me some more of that, and I loved it. And I did it for 27 years. And, corporate America kicked me in the ass. And
how so?
Because I plateaued. I hit the glass ceiling. I'm a Hispanic female, and I was trying to go to the top of the food chain, and I applied for the next opportunity. So second to the top opportunity, I applied 5 times and got rejected 5 times by the same person, a female. And a lot of that was, probably she was threatened, probably, things like that, insecurities. And it was then and there, that 5th time that she rejected me, and I went to corporate and they said, you know what, did you know that your boss is disapproving every time you come up for that? And I was like, no. And I was just like in utter shock. And so when I went back, I made a decision, and my decision was nobody was ever going to hold me back. Nobody was ever going to keep me from following my dreams, and I think as a little girl, when I thought, I'm going to be the president of something, a company or whatever, and she kept me for my dreams. So that adversity at that time made me decide I can't drink the corporate Kool-Aid anymore. It just didn't support my, my goals and my, what I wanted.
Well, I'll just throw this out there that I just wanted to publicly thank that person Because had that person not do what they did to you, then you might not be in this situation right now.
Oh,
You
absolutely.
might have still been in that situation. And I think to a certain extent, we owe gratitude to those people,
Right.
that have held us back. Because listen, if you push this hand and I want to push forward, I'm going to just push it harder.
Right.
And the more resistance that I get on this hand, the harder I'm going to push forward.
Right.
So resistance is a really important way to build strength. This is why martial artists, especially in like Thai kickboxing, those guys will slam their legs on trees, like bamboo trees, for like hours. Like, look at a Thai kickboxer's legs.
Yep.
It looks, it's insane. It looks like it's all mangled up. And the reason why is because they're just building scar tissue and making their stuff tough,
Right.
And, maybe that's good for us. Maybe if we were all complacent, maybe if, everything was just chill and easy, that we would not become our best self. We've all been through that. I don't want to state, or I come off like I've been through all this adversity. And, I grew up, with, my dad, on the other hand, did. My dad actually, he comes from India. He always tells us this story, and I was telling my kid, my 6-year-old son, in front of him, and he felt a little uncomfortable about it. But like, he didn't have lights, he didn't have electricity, he didn't have plumbing in his house. If he wanted to study, he'd have to go out onto the street and use the street lights to study.
Wow.
It's like walking uphill 2 ways in the snow. That's his thing. And because of that adversity, it's because I think what made him who he is, and it's because he was able to do all the great things that he did. In his own right. So, I applaud you for realizing that was not your best self.
Right. No, absolutely not. And, the other thing it helped me realize too was, obviously I wasn't, again, aligned with the corporate mission, because the corporate mission was sell this to anybody, shove it down their throat. And, it's corporate dollars that they cared about. So that kind of, make me felt like, do I really want to align myself with this? Because this is really not my ethical or moral way of thinking. You know what I mean? Like,
right.
I'm not a hard seller. I really am a consultant. And if I can't help you, I'm not going to help you. And I'll give you a great example. I have a client, and, God love her. She's in the travel industry, and that is dead. Okay. Dead.
Yeah. Except for RVs and those types of recreational vehicles. Apparently there's a big surge on that, because it's like you're safe in quarantine.
Oh yeah, that's right. Thanks for that. No, but she's international travel, and she was buying a campaign, and I finally called her and I said, you know what? I can't take your money anymore. You're not going to get any leads. You're not going to get people traveling, and I would rather you eat than for me to ever think you're going to even grow your business. There's no way. And I'm like, you can do this. I'll tell you how to do it, and I'll walk you through it, and we'll hold your hand, but don't hire us. You save your money,
Now that takes guts.
Yeah.
That takes guts.
I didn't want to take her money, and I wouldn't feel good at night,
And let me guess, she's like, you know what? I'm going to pay you double.
No, she didn't. No, she didn't, because she applied for unemployment. I mean, her business was what fed her. And if she didn't have travelers, and her travelers weren't, even if they booked, she would not get the money until next year, So it was pointless. So, and it didn't feel right. And, but here's the other thing. The other cool thing is, because you talk about adversity, here's the super cool thing. If you start a business now, we're in a very adverse time. If you start a business now, and you go through the heartache and the pain, you're going to go through the hardest time that you've ever gone through for your business. And if and when you survive, you're going to be a champ, because you're going to be able to endure anything after this, because it's all downhill after this,
You're so right. You're so right. I mean, if you could get yourself to a point where you give away everything you have, because you don't need anything. What do you really need right now?
Right.
To survive? You need a little bit of food, and you need a roof over your head, and you need your family to be around. And if you can get rid of the vast majority of your crap, or the desire to get crap, and then to have that lack of baggage, that like freedom not caring about the car and not caring about the house. This is a great time to start from the ground level up, the ground level, like shed all your skin and just start over again. It's a good time. It really is. I mean, let's just look at that. Look, we don't want to, make light of what's going down, because it's serious and it's not over and it's not done. Yep. But at the same time, human beings survive, and that's what we're made to do, and that's what we should do. And we gotta give, SGN, we gotta give some good news. Shout out to John Krasinski.
Absolutely. Absolutely. And here's the other thing too, is because if you think about like the economy that we're in and growing a business and starting a business, the whole reality is, if you look at historically, anytime we've had a recession, anytime that our world has had a kick in the ass, that's when businesses have popped up, like a bunch of businesses. And so this is going to be, and this is why I say my job is secure. Like, I want businesses to pop up. I want a bunch of people to become entrepreneurs, because this is the sign of time of going forward. This is, the more businesses that are being created, this is how we move forward. This is how we drive the economy. And I'm all for it. Like, sign up. If you need help, I'll help you, but sign up, do it. You're going to be a stronger entrepreneur because of it. You will be, I promise.
Right. We have a little guest here that I'm going to introduce you to you. Oh, that's cool. So this is little Gia here.
Oh.
Yeah, she's how old is she now? 20 months. And she is the true personification of like wanting the most out of life. And like the more resistance she gets, the harder she tries. And I've learned so much from this little girl here, because when she wants to go on a bike ride, she'll get a bike ride.
Oh, nice. I love it. That's awesome. So it's funny that you say that, because humans are very resilient and humans are very persistent.
Yeah, exactly. And I think that, one of the things that I've learned from this little girl is being vulnerable and having that idea of like being innocent and not being afraid to fail, because you don't know that if you get yourself on that little balance bike and then you fall off, you don't know that it's going to hurt.
Right.
You don't know that. And it's like if we go back to that like childlike innocence and vulnerability, how much can we win? All right.
I want some more. Awesome.
Right. You want to go for a bike ride? All right.
Oh.
So she's going for a bike ride now, so I got to take her. So we'll wrap it here.
Okay.
But amazing conversation, and it's inspiring, some of the things that you were talking about. It's truly inspiring. Please give us some information on your business. Where can we find out about you? Where we can learn about you? Socials, everything.
I will. Absolutely. Thank you so much, Ruben, for having me. I do appreciate it. And you're doing absolutely wonderful things as well. And I commend you. And hopefully you will continue to do the good too as well, and move forward and help businesses as much as you can. At the end of the day, it's about supporting, our community, supporting these businesses so that they do move forward,
It's so true. How can we find you on social?
You can find me at Facebook, Advertise, or on LinkedIn, Kat Ramirez, or you can go to the website, www.advertise.com. All my contact information is on my LinkedIn if anybody finds me and looks for me. But if you Google me, you should be able to find Advertise, ADBIDTISE. But yeah.
There it is.
Awesome.
Amazing. Thanks so much for the time.
Thave a fun bike ride.
Yeah, we're going to go on a bike ride. Let's go.
Thanks.
See ya.
Bye.